What's the monster that is nothing but a head and legs? What is the monster that's the head bone next to the leg bone?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, the only thing my brain came up with was the Striders.
No, but yes. Imagine that, but a little white ghost. I think that would be me. Sing to me, Polymnia, muse of geometry, of the structures that tell their own tales, of the wanderers who create for years on end, who build stories from nothing but blocks and squares, from the proud heights of Hermitcraft. Welcome to FanDive. My name is Chaos.
And I'm Andy.
And today we are talking about the lore slash not lore slash environmental storytelling of Hermitcraft.
I wanna help lead this one. I think about this a lot. So in Minecraft, there's a lot of different SMPs that tell stories because Minecraft is a sandbox game where you can create anything from it. And a lot of people create improv or scripted stories. But Hermitcraft tells stories differently than other people. Like, Season 8 is the most classic, the straight up playing out a story. Because, hey guys, is the moon big?
I think the moon may be just a little bit bigger than normal.
Huh. Might have to keep an eye on that. Maybe start a cult around it?
Maybe build an observatory.
Maybe we ignore it in all of our episodes, then everyone else does lore, and then we suddenly just stop because the world ended. But in that season, like, the gravity went weird. Things were clearly happening. I don't think we ever explained why it happened. That's a fan thing.
Well, actually, Rendog did, but that is Rendog lore, not technically connected to everyone else.
Listen, we're talking about Hermitcraft lore. I'm barely going to touch on Ren's lore, because he is a completely other book.
Yes, in terms of Hermitcraft, when we say lore, not lore, environmental storytelling, Rendog does the complete opposite. He gives such lore in the literal sense of the word, being the background information of how we got to where we are today. Season 8, in his perspective, was a Matrix-like simulation, and the moon landing, or the moon crash, landing onto Hermitcraft, was a virus that was forcing people to flee the simulation.
Yeah.
And to everyone else that has zero context, they were building observatories, they were mapping out scientific research on the server, they were creating that environmental storytelling that didn't need this cool cinematic shot.
Yeah, so Season 8 is kind of the exception, where they really did have a, quote, storyline, but they still kept in Hermitcraft nature, whereas, like, some members completely ignored it. I'm fairly certain B-dubs just didn't acknowledge it.
Until he died.
But for most season of Hermitcraft, the storytelling they do is in the builds. Like, okay, the gem of season 10 is a really good example of the storytelling in her builds, where she has created this entire village, but every single house has a person who lives there, and why they live there, and what they do for a job, and the house will reflect that. There's a house that the monster in the lake has torn into because they were a fisherman. Like, there's a story, and it's a very clear story being told, but it's not being told through the characters playing in the city. It's being told through them building the city and, like, showing us these things of how they came to be. I know I'm just thinking of Gem for the most part, but Impulse will do these. Okay, well, we did this forge for the Dwarven Empire, whatever. It's not Empire.
The Dwarven
Keep. There we go. Thank you very much. They did this and they did this, and it's connected to Gem's area because they export the goods there, and they bring us food, and connecting all of the builds of Hermitcraft into one cohesive story that, when you look at from afar, is very mishmash. But when you start getting on their level and playing through the world save is typically how you do it. you can see a story taking place around you, like a frozen moment of time in this world that they create. And I love those storytelling ways.
One of my favorite, almost combination of those two things, of something so wildly disconnected but also inherently the same thing, is Bodum during season 8. Everyone who was building mountains built different types of mountains, and then Mumbo came along and brought this world of Minecraft to an actual geologist who studies formation of mountains and asked, is this possible? And they went, yeah, they would be bigger, but yes, these three things could exist directly next to each other, touching even in some points.
Yeah. And once they do this information, typically not bringing actual geologist in, but it happens, I guess. They will like work with each other to blend out the terraforming that they do or the types of builds or whatever. I know this season that the people part of Magic Mountain have been slowly like connecting their builds with different trees and land formations.
Palm trees connect to palm trees, connect to palm trees, connect to mountains, connect to cities, connect to other cities. Even the bridge down from one cyberpunk city into another cyberpunk city is connected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'll see elements of other hermits in other people's builds. Some of it with like pranks that just so happen to like fit. But some of it is like doing graffiti and then that just stays. It's because, you know what? This is graffiti, but I actually love that. So it's here now.
For the longest time, Skiz was trying to keep all of the gifts that were given to him at his base, and he ended up with a weird etho in green. And then, until the snails stole it, which we'll cover in a second, he wanted to keep all the things that the hermits brought him because he cared about what people brought him, and that connected the server.
Related to the snails, there is some lore that we are shown and taught that isn't just them building. With the majority of it on the server is being told through the creations. There's also things like Grumbot.
Yeah, stories of things that the hermits will build but claim other things did this. It's totally natural. Grumbot being, a structure and a redstone machine that Green and Mumbo made together, but they treat it like it's a living thing that is actively doing things that they don't control.
So if you are a big fan of Grumbot, then I apologize. You can skip the next minute. However, I'm going to break the wall a little bit.
No.
Grumbot is a hollow shell.
Yeah, he has like a dispenser.
Is a dispenser, basically. The early versions of Grumbot also had the wiggle the eyebrows mechanic.
But it's a couple sticky pistons and a dispenser.
And in no video do they talk about it. In the video, he is an AI. And this is consistent. They never, ever, ever break this storytelling that he is the son. Grumbot is Mumbo and Green's son.
They built it
together.
He is an
AI that gained intelligence and also, for some reason, can rip holes in reality.
See, but that was an alternate version of Grumbot. So, in a different reality, that Grumbot can rip holes in reality.
Season 9 Grumbot lore is kind of one of the outliers. We're not going to dive into it much today. However, off camera, I just want to talk about XB someday with you.
One day we'll unpack XB together.
One day we should unpack XB and Grumbot.
Carilson!
But, they will have lore that is lore as in we do not break that wall.
And then a lot of the time, that lore is used to explain things going on behind the scenes. Like, Grumbot could rip holes in reality because they wanted to do a crossover event with Empires.
Yeah, exactly. It's the way of, again, connecting all of the different stories together. The only time they have that lore that is, we don't talk about it, is when they are sewing the threads together.
And then there's also accidental lore, stories that they tell because something happened and they want to say, oh no, it was actually a cool thing all along. When Wells Knight wasn't able to finish up, I believe, season 6, he canonically went into a deep sleep and slept through the ending of the season until Cub Fan had to come back and bring him into season 7 and became this huge angsty thing that you see in a lot of his character arc that the fans really focus on is, oh, Wells Knight was left behind at some point.
Do that actually with a number of AFK players. Wells Knight is a very particular one that we see more frequently in, but I mean, you have to come up with explanations of why things are the way they are. Have you seen the Hellsmiths?
Oh, I love the lore of the Hellsmiths because it starts off with a Hell's Knight and then you start saying, but what about Evil Azuma? What about Evil Azuma? And then Evil Azuma has to go talk to Hell's Knight in Hell's Kitchen, and there you see a bunch of different versions of hermits. And you get more or less canonical confirmation that there is such a thing as Hell's Knights. And Momo has yellow eyes, and I'm forever going to focus on that.
Well, there's a lot of things that we shouldn't focus on, but we do. Skin beef.
Beef. Okay, we will bring that when we inevitably do an episode about Hell's Knight. I'm going to force us to talk about skin beefed.
And again, this is me breaking the wall somewhat, so I apologize. However, if you go to the Hermitcraft Season 9 World download, you can go inside of Grumbot. And there is a sign placed with a quote that I think about frequently in the way of why these creators do what they do and why they do the lore that they do, which is just a sign on the inside of Grumbot that is just, sometimes the illusion is more entertaining than the truth.
And such is literally the story of Hermitcraft and Minecraft as a whole. Physically, the truth is we are playing code that is generated in cubes. But the illusion is beauty, story, taking this very geometric looking game and saying, no, there is something here, let us find it.
Yeah, and that's also where the end poem comes in. It's how Minecraft as a whole does what Hermitcraft does all the time, tying everything together, even if it looks really weird. And if you think about it, it's weird, but you tell a story. You tell a story with the resources you have. And the hermits tell stories through illusions and fun with one another, building castles. Wells builds so many castles.
Well, I mean, in his defense, he is a knight.
I love him.
He's very good at building castles.
He's so good at building castles. He spent a week and made an entire castle, and I don't know how he did it.
You put down those blocks, you look at that geometry and go, I can make a castle out of this.
It's just a bunch of shapes.
It's just a bunch of shapes. That's all Minecraft is. It's shapes and colors.
Shapes and colors. It's just a bunch of cubes, actually. Sometimes you get an ender pearl, but that's just tiny cube.
I think it's worth bringing up Zombie Cleo through armor stand storytelling because so much potential can come about by adding people and motion to your story. These builds sometimes come off as hollow structures, and then Cleo shows up, puts a person in a dress made out of boots, and then suddenly it's a royal gala.
I think Scar is really good at that as well, of adding an emotion in the build to make it feel alive. Because I described it previously as a feeling as if time has paused in this moment and you're seeing the story around you that you have to take in through what you see. But when you go into places like Scarland, you have these beautiful lights around you. You see these armor stands of people on the street, hanging out, having fun, buying balloons. Somebody lost the balloon. The grandma waiting on the bench. It's
the wheelchair made out of pickaxes.
Oh, I love it.
I almost cried at that.
One of them has a cane as well.
It's the potential that can come out of just adding a face to something. And again, we go back to Grumbot. It was just a dropper, but it was a dropper that had a face on it. And so a story was made out of it.
So I think Hermitcraft is very unique and special in that way. They'll ask us what the storyline is, what these plot points are, what the arcs these characters are taking on, and it's hard to describe in normal terms because they are telling a story, but they're not doing it in conventional means. The Buttercups have an arc. We got the Vex boys, they have an arc. Moonbig
feels so different though, because it wasn't, yeah, let's build a thing. It was, let's build something to respond to a thing. And I think that's the difference. Lore in the Minecraft sense is a reaction. Lore in the Hermitcraft sense is an action.
Oh, here's a different way of phrasing it. In a lot of different lore-based SMPs, you'll have people who are characters. In Hermitcraft, they aren't always characters. They have characters, but they don't play them. They play the storyteller.
Yeah, I think Jem was the one who recently brought this up. She was in a video talking about how, well, I imagine my character doing this, but she is actively playing Minecraft, physically controlling her character, her avatar in that moment. But she is describing a story that she thinks her avatar would do should she not physically be in control.
Yeah, Hermitcraft, I really like what they do with cubes.
Good cubes. 10 out of 10 geometry.
Really like what they do with cubes. 10 out of 10 would look at those cubes again.
It's so hard to talk about because at the end of the day, it's environmental storytelling and we are not exactly a visual medium. We can point to something and go look at that, but they don't see us pointing.
It's true. I'll have you know, if I smack my mic, you might be able to hear me pointing.
If I shake my monitor, will you feel me, Andy? Would you feel it?
Can you feel the eye contact I'm making at your little pixel avatar right now? Can you feel the eye contact?
There is not a thought in my avatar's eyes, and we both know it. I think the final point I really want to make is the lore of the transition between seasons, because that is the one moment that we don't really see so much. Like, I think Graham between season 6 and 7, he rode a boat into the void and then landed in a boat into season 7, and then
wait a minute.
Who?
Wait a minute!
What?
Wait a minute!
What?
Sahara! There was a specific time when they launched the diamonds into the sky.
That
and
was,
it was like
yep.
2 seasons later. Like 2 seasons, like diamonds flying by.
So there it goes.
So the seasons are technically connected.
The seasons are connected. And again, if we go back to Rendog, they're just taking places on different planets. They get to one planet, they build up, then they get on a spaceship and go to another planet. But again, Rendog has the history lore. Everyone else does not do that.
Scar does.
Scar has interdimensional lore right now, which I count as different.
That's fair. But people, they each individually choose how they transition seasons. Sometimes Tango flies into the moon and tries to blow it up.
Then he died in the process. Just, cash.
And then he made it to the next season.
Yeah, season 9, I don't know, does Tango just respawn wherever Azuma is? And what about
the
False?
Beginning of season 9.
The beginning of season 9, yeah, False
flew on an eagle.
Yeah, False escaped season 8 on an eagle, which also was a spaceship, and then showed up at season 9, and then rebuilt that eagle day 1 and said, yeah, we flew in on the eagle. That's how we got here. And that was the environmental storytelling with also literal words to explain away something.
Yeah. I don't know. Beginning of season 9 was something else, if you ask me.
They were so prepared to set down roots for a lifetime. The Hermicipi. Can we just... I like boats. We know this. The Hermicipi.
Yeah.
It's something so beautiful about just having like, it's one thing to have a community that is built around a river, but the second you put a boat in it, it says the river is part of our community.
Yeah. We're all connected.
We're all connected.
And sometimes our builds come to life and possess us.
You
Which is
know,
not an uncommon story arc for the hermits.
sometimes the builds, they take you over. But you know, such is the entity.
Such is decked out.
Such is everything else on that goddamn server. Let's move into the Q&A then.
Gosh, that server. Yeah, let's move on.
All right, Andy, I'm going to ask, do you have any questions you want answered?
What's a good fun question?
It's a good fun question.
Oh, since we're doing this at the beginning of our things, do you have a favorite muse?
A favorite muse? Oh, let's see. I mean, this one made me laugh when I heard about it, and I immediately texted you and said, this is the fanfiction muse. And it is, I don't think I've ever learned how to pronounce her name. It's Muse of Erotic Poetry. Let me Google how to say her name.
Erato.
Erato?
That's how I pronounce it.
Sure. Yeah, I just love the idea of, like, of all the muses that people still would need to call upon today, it's the fanfiction muse.
Well, sometimes the Greek entities come back, and you're like, "Can you help me on my geometry test?
Can you help me with geometry?" I still think, I don't know when we're ever going to be able to say this muse's name again. You know, when do we need geometry outside of just saying, look at these pretty blocks? Well, yeah, true. We'll get it's redstoners and terraformers.
Yeah, which will probably come up more frequently than one might think, but yeah, we'll see.
The one muse of astronomy, it's going to be referenced to Moon is Big and Cub Fan.
Cub Fan's lore. Cannibalism is canon.
Technically, Scar made that canon, and Cub was like, what? We're doing that?
Cub was confused, but agreed and was like, okay.
I mean, other than fanfiction, I think the other favorite would have to be muse of comedy. So Talia, I'm a big improv comedy person. I like it, and I understand when you need that inspiration when you're on stage and you're coming up with things on the spot. That's gonna be a useful one.
I like the one of dance because I can't pronounce it.
That's a long name. And then there's Cleo, which is literally, if we have to say Cleo, muse of history, and then we turn around and we talk about zombie Cleo, that's going to be a bit confusing.
Well, it's spelled differently, it's fine.
But will they hear the difference? I don't think so.
Oh, they aren't going to hear the difference, but it's there, I promise. It's like when people say Spider-Man's name, and they say Spider-Man. Actually, there's a hyphen in it.
Yeah, it's
How
Spider
did you hear
hyphen
the lack of
man.
hyphen.
You don't say it as one word.
Different question. I don't know who it's from. Was the what monster would you say the other would be? / what monster do our vibes give off?
The vibes of Halloween creatures.
I want to give you like a really friendly cryptid. Like one of those like people don't see properly. Like, you know when people are like, oh my god, the ghosts are evil, but the ghosts' only words they said are like, hi.
I'm just the
what
blurry
are you doing?
Shape in the corner.
Yeah, so you're just going to be one of them cryptids that everyone's like, oh my god, it's terrifying. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like a fuzzy mess of static, and you're like, dragonflies.
I mean, would you like to know fun facts about Mothman? If you actually look at the tales of Mothman, the dude is like doing nothing but trying to save people or warning them of tragedies that are about to happen. And everyone's like, Mothman, he's so scary. And I'm like, the dude told you to get off the goddamn bridge. And then the bridge collapsed.
You are just frolicking in a field and somebody sees you and starts screaming and you're like, oh no, where's the danger? So you start running with them and they think you're chasing them. So I think you're going to be one of those monsters that just like, whoa, fuzzy, staticky creature over there.
What's the monster that is nothing but a head and legs. What is the monster that's the head bone connects to the leg bone?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, the only thing my brain came up with was the Striders.
No, but yes. Imagine that, but a little white ghost. I think that would be me.
That would be funny. That would be great. I don't know what I would be. I'm just a fae.
Yeah, I feel like I can't imagine you much of other than something that looks human but gives off the vibe of it's not. It's not. I don't know how to tell you what it is, but it's not.
Thank you.
Yeah, you would fit right into some sort of seasonal court.
Well, yeah. Of course.
What season would you pick though?
Spring.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, that checks out. Well, unfortunately, it is autumn right now, so you have to leave us.
Okay, well, I'll have you know, during autumn, I am. This is a joke that is just for me. Just for me and that one person who's gonna get it. So I'm not explaining this. During this season, I am unfortunately assigned the role of emo. So I'm not allowed to dress in any of my normal clothing. I have like 3 outfits that are pure black, and that's all I wear.
L.
Once it hits winter, I can go back to my green bright red sweater.
L.
But during fall, I can't be my spring deity. I get to be assigned emo. So I don't know what that says about me.
See, I wear so much like black and like a really muted green. I'm just
Bright
the
pink.
foliage. I am just the eyeballs in the leaves.
Bright pink. My headphones are bright pink. My bag is bright yellow. My my
Give me
glasses are
earth tones
bright
or
pink.
give me death.
I have a number of green things as well, I will say that, but I have no like browns or anything. What monster am I? Spring.
You are the monster of spring.
Pretty
Thank you for
color.
asking.
How about what you watch when you're not watching Minecraft? Like, what other content do you enjoy if you have any other free time in your life?
I am a huge sucker for like arts and craft YouTubers, especially those who are like borderline cosplayers, but they do like, and I'm making a costume that requires me to needle felt a frog in a teapot. Like that is, those are the type of people who I love.
I will play like storytelling video game. So like if it's not Minecraft, it's often Life is Strange, Spiritfarer, what's other ones that I've done? Yeah, but like stuff like that. Where I don't talk about the other fandoms I'm in just because I have a special interest of Minecraft. However, there's a number of fandoms that I've been a part of that I just never talked about.
I mean, I won't shut up about my favorite 90s anime. Yu Yu Hakusho, Kahecho Hitman Reborn. I don't know if Blue Exorcist counts as a 90s anime. I don't think it does. It was a 2000s one. But I love this kind of like old school shoujo feel. Not shoujo, shoujin. I'm not a fan of shoujo.
Also, like, this is so on brand. But I also like vlogs of different nature, like specifically people who explore historical ruins and like start laying out the info. I like documentaries.
I mean, I will never not be watching video essays in my free time, but I always end up turning that into, I'm going to write my own video essay and put that in Minecraft. So I feel like that's like borderline does not count. However, I have been getting into Star Trek recently. I have a new like free streaming service, and I'm like, oh, they have like 7 different Star Trek channels, and it's one of the it's one of the few things that me and my family can like watch together. It is between like Star Trek and whatever baking competition's on right now. Those are the 2 things we can watch when we hang out together. I don't like cooking competitions. They get so aggressive, but baking competitions, people legit like, hey, I finished early. Do you, my opponent, need help? And I'm like, yes, this is the good vibes.
Now I know both you and I like drop out.
Oh, Dropout's amazing. I love D&D content. I love improv comedy. The Gastronauts, the new show that they're doing, literally the funniest thing.
Dude, okay, Game Changer is one of my favorite ones. I like Dropout as a whole, but I don't watch it nearly as frequently as Minecraft, imagine that. However, when Zombie Cleo built the Game Changer set inside of Hermitcraft,
you're it. That's it. We're done for.
I felt like the crossover of the century was happening.
Okay, recommendation of the episode, go watch The Green Room from Game Changer.
Do it.
Escape the Green Room. The best episode I think they've ever made. You want us to act like animals? Then we will be.
When I'm up here.
I think that is the perfect note to end on. We are not animals as we shake the chair violently as a threat.
Amplify the volume like 15 layers. Don't deafen our viewers, please. We only have so many.
Thank you for listening to this episode of FanDive. We'll be back again next Monday diving into yet another fandom. Have a topic you would like us to cover? Head over to our website, fandive.tumblr.com. There you can also find any episode relevant images and general shenanigans that we get up to. It is Tumblr after all. We're not ashamed of being fans of things.